Okay, today we're looking at Star Trek: The Early Voyages. Now, this was a series that was originally put out by Marvel. There's different ways to collect it. Obviously, the original comics. There's several different trades. The version I have is by IDW that lists this as Star Trek Omnibus Volume 2. But what it is the Star Trek Early Voyages comics. Now, it's all written by Dan Abnett and Ian Eddington, and they do a really good job. These are writers who get Star Trek. They get classic Star Trek, and they just do a fantastic job at writing interesting tales that sound and feel like the original series. They get that kind of storytelling, and as you can see, the art here is fantastic. Now, most of the art is done by Patrick Zurcher. And here's kind of a nice intro of the different cast of characters. Unfortunately, at one point here, they introduced the transporter chief, and we really never hear from him again. All the other characters are good. There's really interesting character development. They're used throughout the series very well, very evenly. But the poor transporter chief is really never heard or seen again. So I think a little too much ambition with the cast of characters, and we just don't see it all. This here is kind of a nice, interesting character. He is the main foil, main adversary of Captain Pike, because this is kind of the Star Trek Early Voyages with the Enterprise by Captain Pike. We've obviously got Spock and the other cast of characters from the Cage, as well as some new characters that are invented by the writers. And the art by Patrick Zurcher is just absolutely fantastic. He really knew what he was doing. Now, he's not on all of the issues here. So they occasionally get some fill-in artists who are just not quite as good. But the issues he's on, which is most of them, fantastic. And again, the writing team, they really understand what Star Trek's about, how to tell interesting tales, with the sci-fi setting. And they understand that the characters are what make Star Trek, and the interrelationships between them. And you've got some good character development. These characters are not static throughout the series, but they are able to grow. Again, here we return to the main nemesis of Captain Pike throughout the series. It's nice to have a Klingon adversary, but he's not in every issue, so it's not overdone. But the art's fantastic by Zurcher. Now again, occasionally you have a fill-in artist who's just not quite as good. I wonder if I can find some of it here. Yeah, so here, this doesn't look quite like Zurcher's art. Let's back up and see who the actual artist is on this particular issue that they include. Okay, so you got Michael Collins as the fill-in. And his art is still pretty good. It's just not as good as Zurcher's. So if you are a Star Trek fan, I would highly, highly recommend this series. Now, unfortunately, it does end on a cliffhanger because the series was canceled by Marvel at the time. I don't know if they lost the license or it just wasn't selling enough or what the story was. I think this was the longest running of the Marvel Star Trek comics from the 90s. So they had the license. They did a bunch of different series, set in different time periods. This was the longest running one, and it's just so well written because they got a great writing crew. You even have kind of a alternate timeline story with Captain Kirk. You got here Chang in there. So just good storytelling all around. And when it's paired with Patrick Zurcher's art, fantastic. Even the fill-ins are good. But unfortunately, the series does end on this kind of cliffhanger. And no resolution. It's too bad they couldn't keep going with the license for a while. But if you are a Star Trek fan at all, I highly recommend this. I really think this is, if not the best, one of like the top 3 Star Trek comics out there. So this has the full run of Star Trek Early Voyages. There's lots of ways to get it. I think the most recent release is probably the Eagle Moss Star Trek graphic novels release of it. That was a little pricey, and I didn't need to get that because I've already got it through here. Highly, highly recommend it. Art's fantastic. Abnett and Eddington knew what they're doing when they're writing stories. Just excellent, excellent Star Trek. Till next time.